Now, looking at the title of this video, when you first come in, as you see, President Trump urges RICO charges against George Soros and son. You might be saying, against Soros, one of the most powerful men in the world, and we haven't even prosecuted or arrested any politicians here in America yet? Yeah, right. And as I get into this video, hopefully I can help you see things a little bit clearer, because you're going to hear from Soros's own mouth what he has to say about Trump, and you're going to hear what's been unveiled, information that people have known that Soros has been involved in things. But we have to understand something. When everybody's demanding all of these arrests, this video is going to help you overstand, not understand. Because to understand something means it's above your head. You're understanding it. But to overstand something means to be on top of it and have full comprehension. In this video, you're going to hear exactly why you haven't seen more prosecutions yet, and exactly how that's getting ready to flip. These people are extremely smart. These demon rats working hand in hand with Soros, these folks are masters at destruction. This isn't the first country that Soros has put his hands on to try to destroy. He's destroyed many other ones with helping them take away their borders, bring in heavy crime, and it's all funded by him. So please, in this video, pay attention, because what you're going to see, I assure you, you're going to want to share it. And realize this: if President Trump brings a case against a Letitia James, Fannie Willis, Alvin Bragg, any of these people, especially the prosecutors and the attorney generals, understand this is their field. They're extremely skilled at it to the highest levels. That's how they're AGs of states and whatnot. These folks aren't dumb. They're Ivy League graduates. They're heavily networked out. And if President Trump and the DOJ, Pam Bondi, or the FBI brings a case and they lose, that will destroy their credibility and will make it difficult to bring any other prosecutions. So we're talking about 8 months in to where they're finally getting the chance to get their hands on documents and set up cases. Think about for people that have committed assault against people, battery. It's taken longer than this to investigate. I watch the true crime shows. It's taken years in some instances where they've had all the evidence, but they could not tie it together well enough to get a conviction. So please rest assured, it's only 8 months, and they're doing this the right way. When they bring it, a blind and deaf person, Helen Keller, would be able to sit on the jury at one of these cases when they bring it and realize the person's guilty. And remember, she was deaf, blind, and mute. And so when a deaf, blind, and mute person can see that it can get the feeling and inkling that a person's guilty, you know it's bad. So let's get off into this. So let me introduce you to George Soros, because not just Soros, his son Alex too. Now this is Alex Soros, okay? That's George, obviously the older gentleman, and there's Alex. But let me introduce you to some of their other friends too, because that's not the only friends that they have. Here's some of the other friends of the Soroses. Now, as you can see here, let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger. As you can see here, we got Chuck Schumer, we've got Tampon Tim, we've got Scamala, we've got Barry Soetoro, Barack Obama, Adam Shifty Schiff, we got Sleepy Creepy Piss Pants Joe, Jasmine Cratchit. Don't know who this. Oh, that's Pete Buttigieg. We've got Nancy Pelosi. We've got Senator Warnock out of Georgia. We've got Hakeem the Dream, Timo Obama. And then we've got your girl out of Massachusetts, and for some reason, Elizabeth Warren, right? So we've got all of the main players, and as you can see there, but nobody elected him. So you got Soros, and these aren't from years ago. All of these are from 2024. They were all networking with him during the Kamala Harris presidential run. Now, here's what President Trump sent out. George Soros and his wonderful radical left son should be charged with RICO because of their support of violent protests and much more all throughout the United States of America. We're not going to allow these lunatics to rip apart America anymore, never giving it so much as a chance to breathe and be free. Soros and his group of psychopaths have caused great damage to our country. That includes his crazy West Coast friends. Be careful. We're watching you. Thank you for your attention to this matter. See, Soros has linked up with your Gavin Newscombs and some of these other folks, allegedly, through his open society. And they've been bringing the pain for a long time. Now, Soros has something he wanted to get off his chest about President Trump. But understand this, since he was a boy, he told his own story on 60 Minutes, which they banned off television, which when he was young, and he's a Jewish man. When he was young, though, and the Germans were invaded, he was given a choice. You can either help the Germans and trade on your people and help us collect this silver and these gold and these goods from these people, or you can die with them. You know what he did? Obviously, he's alive today. He flipped. He flipped on his own people and joined the Germans. And he was a part of going in and kicking Jews out and helping them get put in concentration camps, allegedly. That's at the core of this man, and that's from when he was a boy. Now, since that time, when you trade on your own people, heartlessly, and even said that he don't regret it at all. It was all about survival. And if he didn't do it, somebody else would. That is his mentality and ideology. And when a person like that has no soul, no heart at the core, and truly performs like he's the devil's son, you think he cares about yours, mine, our families, anybody's families? He's all about the almighty dollar because there's nothing else to look forward to. He knows where he's going if there is an afterlife, if based on his actions, what the Bible says is true. And I'm not here to get all religious on you, but men like him don't think about afterlife. Everything is now. They want to live forever. And I'm willing to bet money that he's poured millions, if not billions, into some of this technology that they have, where they're really working to transfer consciousness from one body into another, what they call a sleeve.
I'm very, very pleased to announce that the first baby Cole is born. She was born yesterday at 11:55 a.m. in the country where she was born. So this will not give you more details about the location. She's fine. We call her Eve.
I think cloning humans is inherently a bad idea for sort of, if I may, evolutionary biological reasons. And that is that if you clone yourself, if this were successful, this kid, this baby, would not be the combination of two people's genes. And so this kid would be inherently falling one genetic step behind, if you will, everybody else in kindergarten. Everybody else would be a result of a mixture of genes. A clone would be the result of a single set of genes.
Glenn McGee is director of the Center for Bioethics at the University of Pennsylvania and the author of the Human Cloning Debate and Generation Genome. Dr. McGee was with the FDA 2 years ago when it shut down a Clonaid lab in West Virginia. He joins us now from Philadelphia.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up because I will never ask you for a Cash App or a Super Chat. But you hitting that like button, it helps spread the information out where other people can see it. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. And whether you're already subscribed or subscribing now, make sure that you hit the notification bell and then you select all, because YouTube has been having an issue with getting the notifications out. But when you select all, YouTube will make sure you get notified the next time I upload new videos. And they just dump that consciousness in there, and this person maintains their memories and whatnot and keeps on going. Now, you and I both know that that's demonic. But listen to what this man had to say.
President Trump is a con man and the ultimate narcissist who wants the world to revolve around him. When his fantasy of becoming president came true, his narcissism developed a pathological dimension. President Trump.
So this man, Soros, the psychopath who believes in destroying countries, destroying borders, taking over their currency, literally gets off on that. Because when you've gotten so rich as him, it's not about the money. You can buy any island, you can buy any vehicle, you can buy any boat. He's already bought people. Now he just looks to see just how far he can pay people to destroy other people. And I don't care what industry you look in. When you look at the absolute tippity top of these people who are so wealthy, it's like the stories you get of these different princes of other countries where you hear they bring models over to make them eat donkey poop and have sex with their camels, and because the camel is like a part of their family. It's crazy. The only thing that would make somebody do something like that is you're demonic, because you want to watch somebody else have pain. You want to watch somebody else suffer, and you want to watch how far you can have somebody go for that dollar bill. And that's just crazy to me. But is what's crazier is you got people out there that's willing to do it. Now, check out this video clip where it's going to really lay it out for you exactly what Soros was busted up, and exactly why the Democrats were so upset when Doge came in and obliterated USAID. Check this clip out.
Bill, while you struggle to pay your bills, Democrats secretly pumped $260 million through USAID into Soros-linked NGOs overseas. And this is not just overseas. This is also domestically in the United States, and it is also through other organizations like, let's see, the African Development Bank. There's an Inspector General's report coming out about that. This is a huge story, obviously closely linked to what President Trump said just a day ago, when he said that George Soros and his son, Alexander Soros, who's taken over his evil empire, and that they should be charged under RICO statutes for funding the riots across the United States.
Do you know that these staging companies, one based up in DC, said that their sales shot up over 400%? They get requests from politicians, and the man said that majority of their business is from the left. They get people, and they're paid to have them bring people out, to hold signs, to get loud, to cause ruckus. There's a company that literally employs people to go out and stage like they're an audience. And if you notice something from 2020 or 2022 to right now, have you noticed how different the protests are? You go out and look, and it looks like a geriatric protest. Everybody out there is 65 and older. They were even taking people in wheelchairs. I'm talking about look like they were barely alive, and nothing to do with them. They've lived their life, but they were out there looking like they were barely alive, getting wheeled out there with signs just sitting on their lap. The person wasn't even awake. And if you go out there and you were asking some of these people, hey, what are you protesting for? They didn't even know. So you have people that were over 65 that are retired, unemployed, on fixed incomes going. And then you had younger people that were just either ex-drug addicts, felons who couldn't get hired anyplace else, and they needed to work and get some money. And as a matter of fact, in one post, it said that you can get as much as $12,000 depending on how destructive you are. And those were the ads running for the LA riots. So you find out that USAID, our taxpayer dollars, had 260 million of it funneled to Soros and an NGO. And an NGO stands for non-government organization. Some people be wondering, what does that mean? Yeah, non-government organization. So it's somebody that's doing government work, but it's not a government agency, which means they don't fall under the same type of stipulations and regulations and monitoring. They're not as monitored. Matter of fact, they're I'm not going to say self-sufficient because they require government money, but they run themselves. They have people that run it. They have a board. And so it's really out of sight, out of mind. And that's where a lot of this money have been pumped to. And these were the people funding these illegals, helping them get over, helping them get illegal licenses, helping them do all types of stuff, allegedly. Got to keep it alleged when you're talking about this stuff because folks will try to come and get at you. But $260 million funneled to this billionaire. So in other words, the United States is paying for its own destruction under the Biden administration and under the Obama administration. Now, what brought all of this to the forefront? Everybody for years knew Soros was crooked as a letter S, but that whole uproar in Texas that the Democrats did when they were grandstanding because they didn't like the fact that Texas was going to level the playing field and give their constituents an opportunity to have proper representation. Because in Texas, they had rigged those districts to where all of the districts were chopped up in low-income, high-poverty areas. And typically, low-income, high-poverty areas have ignorant voters. And when I say ignorant, meaning lacking knowledge, lacking information. Typically, they have the lowest grade scores, the lowest test scores, the lowest proficiency and efficiency on math and reading. But yet these are the people casting the votes that dictate the political leaders, the sheriffs, the city council, the state senate, the state Congress in those areas where those that are in more affluent or more middle class areas where the school systems and the education and the efficiency and proficiency is higher, they have very minimal impact because it's just one big district rather than the 15 or 20 that are chopped up in the low income areas. So Ken Paxton decided that he was going to launch an investigation because when those Democrats left, they weren't getting paid, but all of their expenses were being covered by a person named Beto O'Rourke. Now, Beto O'Rourke, let me show you what this individual looks like. This right here is Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke was the person that was funding the Democrats that they ran off. They were up in Chicago, some were in New York. They were staying in 5-star resorts, allegedly 4 or 5-star hotels. They were eating food. They had to travel. And remember, they weren't getting paid. So how were they getting money? Come to find out, Beto O'Rourke was funding it. And guess what happened? They did an investigation. And what the courts did, rightfully so, they put a lien on all Beto O'Rourke's money and property. And as you see here, thanks to a court order signed by Judge Megan Fahey, Beto O'Rourke can no longer raise or distribute money for or to rogue Texas House Democrats who fled the state to avoid doing their jobs. Furthermore, she placed a lien on all money and property owned by the failed political candidate. If you see Beto, you might offer to buy him lunch. He might be getting a little hungry. So because he wanted to jump in and illegally and unethically, let me say unethically more so than illegally, unethically fund these Democrats when they should have been there in Texas doing their job, all because Texas was doing what Illinois, Massachusetts, California, Maine, what all of these left, New York, what all of these blue states did, which is giving tremendous representation to the least educated among them, where these other states are going to expand and give proper representation. There's an influx of Hispanic voters. There's an increase in African Americans that are now conservative voters. So they need proper representation, and that's what it's about. Now, as we lead into this next phase, because this whole thing with Soros, come to find out, he is linked and backed the Obama, Hillary Clinton hoax, Russia hoax, into President Trump. Now, just for a quick trip down memory lane, do you remember this classic moment during the debate when President Trump shut her down with this line?
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
We want to remind the audience to please not talk out loud. Please do not applaud.
Look at how pissed they look. They could tell she just got owned right there. But I bring that up because President Trump had class. When he got in the first time, he said it wouldn't look good if he went after a former president's wife. But guess what? The tables have turned. He doesn't feel that way anymore because Hillary Clinton has gone as far as to say that Trump supporters need to be reprogrammed, literally go through deprogramming. And those are things that the agency, the alphabet agencies used to do and allegedly stopped it. But the fact that she even thinking about something like that lets you know how deranged this woman is. She alienates, she called deplorables and all this other crap. But yet, let's think of the body count that's been found under the Clintons. The bodies, we talking about 10 or more, not to mention the lives ruined just because they wanted to tell the truth. Hillary Clinton attacked women who were assaulted by her husband and went to destroy their lives. We watched this woman laugh when getting a cell phone about someone overseas that the United States were beefing with, I believe one of the Saudis, when he was found unalive, blown up. She was just excited about it and giddy. This woman has zero moral compass. What she's about is power. Now, because of her thirst for power, she has been exposed. And this email is the smoking gun if anybody ever needed or wanted any evidence. Now, this is from Leonard Bernardo. Now, Leonard Bernardo is a representative with George Soros, Open Society. He's also somebody that Democrat politicians have lied and said that they didn't know. As a matter of fact, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the congresswoman from California, came flat out and said, oh, no, I don't know him, never talked to him.
The document reportedly came to the attention of U.S. intelligence officials from Dutch intelligence. It included discussion of an email exchange between former DNC chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Leonard Bernardo, an official with Open Society Foundations run by George Soros. According to the Times, Wasserman Schultz allegedly told Bernardo that then Attorney General Loretta Lynch would not charge Clinton with a crime for having the private email server. Wasserman Schultz and Bernardo have both denied even being in contact with each other, suggesting the document was a fake attempt by the Russians to throw a wrench into the U.S. intelligence community. A spokeswoman for Bernardo sent me a statement today. I want to read part of it. Quote, Bernardo has never spoken with or corresponded with Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz in any fashion. The email mentioned is fictitious disinformation.
But check this email out. Hi, HRC, and we know who HRC is. If you don't, that's Hillary Rodham Clinton. HRC approved Julia's idea about Trump and Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections. That should distract people from her own missing email, especially if the affair goes to the Olympic level. The point is making the Russian play a U.S. domestic issue. Say something like a critical infrastructure threat for the election to feel menace, since both POTUS and VPOTUS have acknowledged the fact that IC would speed up searching for evidence that is regrettably still unavailable. However, there seems to be signs GRU penetration. Now, you may be wondering what GRU is. What GRU stands for, that's a Russian foreign military agency, okay? So also, however, the acronym can refer to the gated recurring unit, but another way of GRU is Main Intelligence Directorate. It's their equivalent of our CIA. So they use that as far as in this message, as in saying like there's evidence of the GRU, so they can use that to throw it off and say that it's Russia. So okay, so just so you know what GRU is, that's the equivalent of the Russian CIA. So, however, there seems to be signs of GRU penetration. Cyrillic 2.0 VPN, and that's virtual private network. VPN, elite VPN, Felix Edmunovich. Now, Felix Edmunovich is a man who passed away in 1926, but he is like the founder or the father of the GRU, or the main intelligence agency in Russia. So the fact that this reference to this individual during this quote unquote hack attempt is what they're using to leverage it and make the American public believe that it's Russia, when in reality it's the Clinton Foundation, Soros, and Obama. In absence of direct evidence, CrowdStrike and Threat Connect will supply the media, and GRU will hopefully carry on to give more facts. So they found that there was some tinkering, nothing on a major level, when they said, and they felt like that was coming from the GRU. So they were able to leverage that little bit of tinkering that had nothing to do with elections and amplify it and blow it up, and then put other lighter fluid and gasoline on it to just make it the explosion that it became. When clear as day here, it stated that Hillary Clinton approved Julia's message to say that Trump and Russia hackers in the U.S. election. It's right there in black and white. And this is July 27th of 2016. Now, check out this clip here from Fox News as they air out even more information about what's going on. Check this clip out.
Documents contain emails, allegedly from the senior vice president of the George Soros Open Society Foundation. He quotes a Clinton campaign advisor saying, quote, "It will be a long-term affair and to demonize Putin and Trump, and adds that, quote, later the FBI will put more oil into the fire, unquote. Other emails reveal Hillary Clinton approved the idea of tying Trump and Russia to election interference. And that was a scheme hoping the allegations would distract people from her own email scandal. These documents provide clear evidence that Hillary Clinton's campaign was behind the Russia hoax and that the FBI knew what the Clinton team was up to, acknowledging that the info they were receiving about the Trump campaign may have come from the Clinton camp. Despite this, the Obama intel community forged ahead with their 2017 assessment, concluding that Russia aspired to help Trump win the election.
So the fact of the matter is, these folks with the skullduggery that they pulled really could have screwed this country over, and they wouldn't have gave a dang. Now, this clip is just a few seconds, but check this out on what they had to say about this Soros situation, because again, the more and more information that comes out, the deeper and deeper the rabbit hole goes. And I assure you, I firmly believe somebody will be held accountable. Now, whether the Soroses themselves will go to prison, I mean, these are powerful people, and they can travel the world without setting foot in America and still have the impact and the power. But I assure you, the earth is shrinking up for them. Check this out.
And his vision is becoming a reality. Reports show the billionaire has helped the campaigns of at least 75 district attorneys throughout the United States. These DAs represent 72 million citizens, or more than 1 in 5 Americans. Soros has spent more than $40 million in direct spending over the past decade to elect prosecutors using various shell organizations to execute his bidding.
Matt Palumbo's the author of The Man Behind.
Now, you see, so when we wonder why haven't there been more prosecutions, that right there explains it all. As a matter of fact, let me show you some of the people that the Soros money has funded to get in these positions of power. See that name right there? You recognize him? Alvin Bragg. Kim Fox out of Illinois, the whole Jussie Smollett debacle that she tried to sweep under the rug until the outrage and the backlash was so loud, she had to go back, and guess what? They gave the man 6 months and then let the dude out after like a week. So the only reason all of that happened was just because there was so much backlash. But Kim Fox, they loved what Jussie Smollett did, trying to create a race war with this hate crime and the fake news, like some white MAGA supporters were out in sub below zero, freezing weather at 2 a.m. while he's walking to get a sub, and they're just walking around with bleach and a noose looking for some gay person to attack because they say, hey, you're the gay guy from Empire. Poured it all on him. Insanity. Soros funded, though. Gascon out of L.A., horrible person. Soros funded. He's one of the judges that every time the Trump administration tried to come in and do something to help the people, he's one of the judges they can always go to slap some injunction. And that's the problem we have. These Soros-funded DAs are the same ones that could be living in New Hampshire, but it's going to put an injunction to stop President Trump deporting illegals out of someplace like South Dakota. Nothing to do with what's going on in New Hampshire. I'm just using that example. But that's what these leftist judges do. So when we talk about why isn't there more arrests, think about what would happen if President Trump brings a case and is one of these radical DAs that is just TDS, Trump hater, no matter what. They're going to do everything they can to destroy and tank that case. And so the power reach is all within the courts. That's why there haven't been more prosecutions. So I pray that people give more grace and realize that it's only the first 8 months. And President Trump is coming with it, but it's got to be done right. So let me get into this article. President Trump urges RICO charges against Soros and Son. There's an abundant documentation that George Soros, through his Open Society foundations and other leftist channels, has donated dollars galore to left-wing ideologies. No crap. And there is equal evidence that many left-wing groups have done much damage to America. Consider the Black Lives Matter movement, an agenda which inflicted hundreds of millions of dollars in race riot destruction on American cities after the death of George Floyd. Now, whether the Soros money went directly into pushing that violence or not may be the subject to investigation. President Donald Trump called for RICO charges against not just George Soros, but his son Alex, who has taken over control of his father's multi-billion-dollar empire that is dedicated to leftist goals. George Soros and his wonderful radical left son should be charged with RICO because of their support of violent protests and much more, all throughout the United States of America. We're not going to allow these lunatics to rip apart America anymore, never giving it so much as a chance to breathe and be free. Soros and his group of psychopaths have caused great damage to our country. That includes his crazy West Coast friends. Be careful. We're watching you. Thank you for your attention to this matter, the president wrote. This will be nice, but Pam Blondie is our AG. Is anyone going to jail? Laura Loomer don't play. RICO charges often involve racketeering or organized crime ventures. The Washington Examiner explained the comment was part of Trump's feud with the Democratic megadonors. Now, that's Alex Soros there with Hillary Clinton's former Aid or whatever Uma Aberdeen. She used to be married to Anthony Weiner before he got busted exposing his wiener. And she left Anthony Weiner and do you want to say hit the jackpot or sold her soul? And she got with Alex Soros. And I swear, this woman was already thin. When she got with him, she looked like literally, she eat one cracker and you'd be able to see it on her body because she is so thin. She's like, man, good grief. That does not look healthy. Trump has long joined Republicans in painting the Soros family as Democratic boogeymen due to the millions they have funneled into left-wing campaigns, causes, and protests over the past 3 decades, the report said. Reports indicate that the Open Society Foundations, which Alex now chairs, has helped fund activists protesting the president's takeover of the police in D.C. And though Trump did not mention Washington by name, he claimed their history of donations and grants meets the standard for charges under the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. Now, I noticed that it said Trump did not mention Washington by name, but I believe that it would be Soros. The report noted the White House and Justice Department officials declined to answer questions about Trump's comment, specifically whether the administration has already opened a RICO investigation into Soros and Open Society. So President Trump didn't want to answer because a man like that is too powerful. And what's up with our media? They trip me out always asking the president some of the craziest questions. Well, hey, listen, with everything going on in such and such, do you plan on striking this way or will you plan to sneak attack around that way? And Trump will say, why would I tell you something like that right here? Why would you? What's wrong with you? And then they get mad. It's kind of like this whole death hoax. Now, Joe Biden didn't make any public appearances for months. And the media would always say, oh, he's working hard. He's diligent. He's tucked away. President Trump has been the most available and open president, I believe, probably in history. I know at least the most visible and accessible in this century. And the man takes 2 days on Labor Day weekend that he did not speak to the press. He was still doing business. He was still having meetings. He was golfing, but he didn't speak to the press. Next thing you know, it's death rumors. You see, these left-wing extremists are so psychotic. And I don't know if they really have short memories or they just intentionally don't want to remember the fact that their guy, their candidate, their person never did interviews. Their VP could not sit down for interviews. Even during her campaign, where you're supposed to do interviews, she could not. So you go from the least communicative administration ever to the most available, with Caroline doing a great job as a press secretary, President Trump out there, Stephen Miller out there, Rubio, JD, everybody's willing to go into hostile territory for the interviews too. Not just Fox News or Joe Rogan. They go everywhere. In 2 days, all of a sudden the man's dead. These folks are nuts. And we got to keep the throttle to the floor. Or should I say, we got to keep the throttle on their neck, keep it full throttle, keep our foot on their neck, and keep pushing this thing forward, waking everybody up saying, look, pay attention. The Democrats are lying to you. They're lying to you. So the fact that you hung out with me and watched up to this point, I want to say thank you from the top and bottom, because this is important. People need to know our government is just sitting on their hands, not doing anything. The hammer is coming. But now that we know, George Soros, his foundation, funded 75 DAs that have come in, not just under the last few years alone, not to mention who he funded before that. And you know, they're sitting there waiting in the wings, hoping that a Trump case against a prosecution against somebody lands on their desk so they can become a hero to the left. But we're not going to let that happen. We're going to keep pushing the line. So again, thank you. If you haven't already, hit that like button. And if you are subscribed to the channel, subscribe. Most importantly, I want you to stay safe and you be great. I'm Brian Maxwell saying I look forward to seeing you at the top. Over and out, y'all.